continuing to do readings more precisely on at the pharmacy building and hope to come up with some strategies. So if that's a good place to welcome some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Grant. So members, questions, thoughts? Laura.
I'm interested to know how so Sitka residents we saw here, they came here and complained. I'm interested to know how they complain when the screen person comes to your desk.
How did the Sitka Green, how did the complaint come? I actually don't have a clear record, but they through the bureaucracy, they found their way to me. So I've communicated directly with both two residents within Climate Green. So through facilities managers, was it Jen?
It came to us, and I
Yes.
sent it over.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about the process. Because,
So what I'm intending to more clearly provide myself as a contact, and welcome to share that broadly, so people can directly bring institutional noise concerns directly to me.
directly to you,
Yes.
not through the, yeah, they can come directly.
That's right. So, and they will have, you can let them know. So in your conversations, you can let them know that I'm representing a technical team. So it's kind of access to that table and those resources.
Just one more point. I remember there were some people complaining about noise from the Hopper area, but I think the noise was actually originating from affiliations. Just wondered, is it in discussion with affiliations?
Yeah, so that's prior to my arrival, but I am familiar that there was both complaints and some mitigation. There was some modification to the way that they were using mechanical equipment. So that's past experience.
It was a year, some years ago.
On this page, you have reviewed the engagement chapter.
Engagement
Chapter.
charter, engagement charter.
Yes. So you are working with UNA. I just want to know when this thing will happen.
When they will, I'm not clear. I don't have a public process strategy to so for example, our approach with the institutional noise is not to embark on an engagement process to talk about. So what I'm putting forward is access to the general community, a point of contact myself, and a working group that meets ad hoc and addresses concerns as they arise. There's no public engagement strategy at this point. Did you want to add?
Oh, I was actually you're representing GPS.
A couple of questions. I think it was on your second slide, you spoke about a post-occupancy process and it included a staff working group, including student housing and hospitality services. But the UNA is not part of that working group.
So Jan has actually been part of some of those conversations, but we're not including a UNA member as a part. The makeup of the group is more technical in nature. However, communication with stakeholders such as the UNA, UEL residents, and in particular, when we struck the working committee, and we've identified the Sitka strata as another clear stakeholder that we would be engaging with. So it's more of a response on an as-needed basis. But if membership on the working group of UNA, we could accommodate that. I think it would be a reasonable thing to do. If you think that we should invite UNA staff to stay with us.
My next question relates to the magic number of 55. So is this a municipal standard or is this a standard that the is selected?
So municipal standards are not totally consistent. We tend to reference the city of Vancouver as our closest neighbor. We do have, at the university, we have what's called the technical guideline. That's what informs how we construct buildings. And both the measures of 55 within 15 meters of an institutional building and 65 are both quoted in that guideline, sorry, the technical handbook. So the 55 does represent an acceptable transmission level from an active area. So in municipalities, we define quiet zones, intermediate, and active zones. So that there is a reference there. There are situations in municipalities where residences are adjacent to active zones, which busy institutional sites would fall under in some cases. And 55 dB at night is acceptable in municipalities in those circumstances. I can say that I think I've shown that I think that we need to do better for Sitka. However, the measurements that I've seen have not yet confirmed that we're far off of the 55 at night. We're in that range. We want to do better, and I think that that's our strategy, is to be strategic in our resources in terms of our understanding about how to operate buildings, how to talk to staff about their behaviors, how they use labs. There's a variety of ways we can approach it, and we aspire to do better than the 55.
Members, any more questions for Grant? Hearing none, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, next up, may I invite them to the floor.
I don't want to stand up for long. I just have 5 minutes and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of us, so
Okay.
that's a minute each. That's a lot of time.
Okay. Good for you.
Well, I thought I brought, anyways, I'm just sitting on it. I'm a member of Logan Lane, which is part of Hawthorne Place. And I think that the issue for the residents on East Mall, and I know I've spoken to Wegland, and I've spoken to a number of people at UBC, our issue relates to the fact that we are paying the UNA every year for a service, and we're not getting anything for that service. So UBC has no authority to hit neither does the UNA on East Mall. And it's been a constant problem that's getting worse. We now have a car that I took a picture of tonight. He's parked out front of my house all day going to UBC. He has no resident pass. He has no visitor pass. And when Joanna has confronted him, he laughs in her face and says, I know you don't take it on East Mall. So it's getting to the point where we're just really fed up because I've spent years on the phone to UBC parking. I've spent years on the phone to the UNA, and we keep hearing that it's in process. And so I think it's just really frustrating for us because none of us can leave our homes after 5 o'clock to go up to the grocery store. We come back, all of East Mall already has people who are going to play tennis, people who are going to play hockey, people who are going to the sports fields, and it's just really starting to get on our nerves. And especially since it seems to be getting out that you can park there for free. Because that car that I mentioned is parked there 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, and he walks to campus. So I guess I just wanted to air our concern. I realize that you're in a budget deficit. I realize a lot of your issues, but I think for us, in my petition, I've advised nobody on East Mall to pay for their parking permits because we're not getting any service for it. So I could park on East Mall the whole year in front of my house and never get a ticket. And so I'm asking, why am I paying $80? Or more next year. Yeah, I understand that. And if you were providing us a service, for myself personally, I would be happy to pay the increase in fees. I'm happy to do it if the job was being done, but it's not. So I guess that's kind of, I just wanted an opportunity to express our feelings and frustration. So I did get a signed petition from everyone on East Hall, which I forwarded to Richard. And, well, except Laura, she wouldn't sign it. And I, conflict of interest, no problem. I never got a chance to go see Yorma to get his signature, so his signature is also lacking. But other than that, I got support from everyone on East Mall. So I think Chris wants to say something. I don't want to take up much time.
I would like the views of the council on why the parking restrictions are as they are. So it seems to me that the patrols and such occur during the day when most of us are at work and really don't concern ourselves with wanting on-street parking. In the evening when we're home and we're out shopping or whatever and we'd like to park on the street, we're not available to do that. It's not available to do that because it's taken up by everybody who's in using the recreation facilities or anything else on campus. So it seems to me we're subsidizing paying someone to come around the patrol to ensure that UBC gets their parking revenue during the day. So could you tell me why the parking restrictions are as they are?
Now, just a procedural item. So in this type of presentation, you're on for 5.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask the
Okay.
members if they would like to add this to the agenda, and then we can devote more time to it and have a proper discussion. Because I sense there are some resolutions already being formulated in response to your concern. And we would need more than just 2 minutes to give you.
It's been a long-standing issue, so I'm sure it's something that's been discussed many times.
All right.
I
So,
motion to put it on the agenda.
okay, so with your agreement, I'll add it as D3, and the correct title, is it local name or?
It's
East Mall,
It's
yeah.
East Mall.
Particularly.
Okay, so it's East Mall parking, and I don't know how long it will take us to get to D3, but we appreciate your sticking around, because
And the other thing, I don't know if the other board members, I did print a number of copies of the petition if anyone on the board is interested in seeing what I said in the petition.
Perhaps I can take one.
Yeah. And
okay, well, thank you both for.
well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to express our frustrations. I know you know, you're aware of it. It's just, I needed to hear it from our.
If I can add one more thing, as Beth mentioned, we do know, and there's a huge problem with parking lot. Also, we know there's a huge problem with visitor parking and permits problem as well. We know they are resell on the Craigslist. We know people are went for whatever it's good or we cannot really see what they got back from it, but there's numbers of cars coming Monday to Friday. They park exactly on the same spot or very near, exactly the same visitor parking number on the car. They just come before 9, they take their backpacks and they go to UBC directly. They do come with a visitor parking in the car and they leave with a visitor parking in the car as well. So it's hard to say, or even they are visiting anyone because they don't even bother to knock on someone's door. Another example is someone coming with a visitor parking permit and play tennis. I do agree if someone comes from our neighborhood and they do go play together. Tennis, that's understandable, they do spend time together. But very often it's just one person in a car. And as I approached this man, he said, well, I do live here. Well, if he does, he wouldn't need a visitor parking pass. So it's just, as I say, we got to the point there is huge amount of cars coming and parking for, you know.
That was more than 5 minutes, sorry about that. I knew we.
Well, clearly, parking is an annoying subject,
No, we're not at all.
So, thank you for raising it. Okay. So we've added that as D3. So let's just return to the agenda for the minutes. Yes. Yes, am I correct in thinking that all, one more?
Yeah.
I do apologize.
No problem. My name is Pooja Khandelwal, and hi there. So I'm a resident of Gardenia, over at the barn. And I'm just here to express my concern around the proposed reduction in the timing of the gym at the barn. And it's just that because we are all staff and faculty, we are working, and so we are generally using the gym before our working hours, which is 8:30. So we use the gym before 8:30 or maybe after 4:30 or during lunch hour. So since these are the pockets of times that we generally use it, it seems a little unfair if we, cut down one time, which is before working hours. So I was given to understand that the gym would, the hours of operation would get reduced and would be opened at 8:30. So I feel it defeats the purpose of having a gym for staff and faculty. And I'm open to any further clarifications if I haven't expressed myself completely.
Okay, so just for the record, your concern is the old barn, the opening of the gym at 8:30 is not really sufficient for a resident such as yourself.
For staff,
Yes.
correct. Because right now it opens at 7 a.m. And while it's my understanding that any gym opens at 7, if not at 6 a.m., because we all do fitness early in the morning or after work. So 7 seems appropriate. 6 would be even better, but it's okay. 7 is fine. But moving it to 8:30 would not enable us to go to work on time.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Let's start with the minutes. James, yeah, for the minutes. Members, any errors or omissions?
Okay, so, sorry. For the minutes, right there. In the minutes, item under D2, letter to the Minister of Community Sports. It actually should be sport, not sports. And it shouldn't say to terminate the fire service charges. It should say expressing opposition to the fire service charge.
Okay. So it should be to oppose, is that right?
Expressing opposition.
Yes, opposition. Everybody comfortable with that?
Yes.
But that wasn't the motion. The motion came directly from Director Joe's sheet that she gave me at the meeting, and then it was amended by Kathleen Simpson, and those were the words that were used.
Just for clarification then, Dan, what words do you have in the motion as you heard?
If we're talking about D2, the original motion is as it's written in the minutes, and then it was amended by Kathleen. Oh, that's spelled wrong, I guess. Thank you. By Kathleen to say to eliminate the words in the form proposed by the UBC Neighbourhoods Taxation Work Group.
So let's get it clear, who actually made that motion?
Kathleen,
But, okay, that actually says here in the minutes, it was made by Rose. Well, okay, so,
Hold on just a second. So, you had written down a motion.
yes,
Okay, and then what happened?
and then Ing asked Rose if she would, that's what my notes say. If I was to be correct, we'll change that for sure. If it's Rose, if it's Ing that made the original motion, you certainly can change that.
Okay, so just for clarification, Rose, you don't feel that you were involved in the discussion related to this motion?
It's not about I don't feel I'm not involved. It's, this is the fact. At that moment, it's not me.
Okay.
That's the way they do it. It's not, of course I'm involved.
I do
I
recall.
can have, yes.
So you have in your records it was moved by Rose,
Yes.
but you just said it was moved by Amy.
Well, Ing just said it was not moved by Rose.
Can I make a suggestion? There's a recording. Why don't we just ask Jan to go back and check the recording and update it accordingly according to the recording?
And then,
And check that word.
so just for clarification, and Laura, you think the motion should have said express opposition?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's what it should have said.
Right. All right.
I'm not sure what number.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't remember that well.
All right. Any other errors or omissions to the minutes?
And I see this last time, but I didn't mention it this time. We have been guys on. This is my one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Rose. I'm very sorry, no problem.
Yeah, it's.
We just copy paste every month, and so thank you for bringing that up.
So at the beginning and also.
We'll change it to update.
So that would occur probably everywhere. Okay. Any other changes? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. And so let's go to section B, reports, and welcome presenters, special guests, and I believe we have regrets from
Staff Sergeant.
Friday. And next up is, we have your report. Thank you for that. Members, any questions related to agenda item B2?
I just want to make I just want to see how great that community consultation was. Again, I said it at the time, and the one that it was January 21st. It was not?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah.
It was a
Yeah,
separate-
it was there.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just say I enjoyed it too.
That's well attended. I will continue that question here about engagement charter.
So, my understanding, by Gabrielle Armstrong, who's leading that process, is that she sent an invitation to Jan and to Richard for a short interview. And so I don't know if those interviews have been scheduled or not, but the plan was for the consultant to interview them.
They have been scheduled, they have not been confirmed.
I have a question, I'm not sure if I should ask, and before we move to B, and I think I kind of, I want to have a new business, a motion for new business, or related to the provincial election, that kind of, so I'm not sure if I should say now or later on after the meeting. If I want to, discussion
So,
related to the CBC work and also
so the election material is part of B5, isn't it?
Yeah, sure, we discussed under DPP one.
can we have a new business add up to the D or we can,
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
no, I mean, can we add up a new business for B before, something
What is the subject?
the subjects to our CDC group, working and, since I contacted, have been working on the CDC, the civic engagement.
Oh, the civic
committee.
engagement.
And
So should we call it
I prepared a few months already, and I'll have a discussion, because I really, some items, I don't know if it's appropriate, and I'll have a discussion with all. Suggestion. So I'm not sure if we can discuss today, or we can have a motion for next.
Well, usually it's better if members see your comments beforehand, and then they can respond in a more informed manner. However, if your concerns are of a time-sensitive nature, we could certainly discuss them tonight. What do you think, David?
Not that sensitive, but if we have time to discuss tonight, or have a brief discussion, and we can move to next time to discuss more. Okay? I'm not sure.
Well, okay, I'm not sure either, because normally when we start with the agenda in A1, that's the time to add discussion items. So if the agenda is incomplete, it should be added then. But again, I get to my point. If we haven't seen anything ahead of time, I'm not sure how responsive the members can be to your questions.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not sure. So what's the time I should have this discussion? So I just ask you now.
Right.
And
How would you feel if we discussed it at the next week?
sure, still.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But how can I put this one in this? How we do it?
Well-
Because this is also related to the new board procedures, because I don't know.
I think those question is what the board procedure, if a board member want to raise some issues.
Okay, well, you could just send an email to Jan, and you get it included. Or else, if it was important for a particular date, i.e. today, you would raise it when we first discuss the agenda.
How many days before them?
The board package goes out the Friday before. And so that week, it would be ideal to give me a heads up that week. And then I would need the documents that you want to be included no later than Thursday.
You good with that? So we got to, so Aviva, you're overdone with, we've asked your questions. And your question about community.
Engaging the charter, yes, and I thought that if anything you follow through that. So if anything happens for this, after review for engaging charter, if anything happens for the UNA, so you will let our board know before.
So the plan is that there's a report that's created, and then that gets submitted to the University Board of Governors. And it's done every year in an effort to address and improve what we're doing. So maybe it's fair to say, if you have any comments, maybe in advance, without knowing questions that Richard and Jen are going to be asked, we could potentially pass that on to them. Some idea.
We don't know the questions now. That's a pop quiz. So Kathleen, your next one.
I actually don't have that much to report. The only thing I'll say is that the AMS elections are in 2 weeks, so my replacement will be chosen and will start in May. They'll be chosen in like 2 weeks, a little bit.
Okay. And there was excuse me, I'm stumbling here. There was an email about a new person
Oh, yeah,
as the president.
for the IFC.
Oh,
So the
I see.
IFC elected a new president who would like to have a meeting with the UNA, and that's what I emailed you, Jan, about.
And AFC stands for,
The Interfraternity Council.
so that's part of the noise issue. Right. So fraternity noise is on the table there. Okay, next up, Maria, thank you for your report, and you'll be done in time.
Thank you. It's nice to be back. You've all had my report. I wanted to draw your attention to a couple of things. One is the changes to Metro Vancouver's water shortage response plan. That was started after that very dry summer in 2015, and there were revisions to the plan. Now, Metro Vancouver creates a plan. It is the municipalities that create the bylaws, which they can then enforce. So I wanted to draw that distinction. When these plans are in place, the UNA will often inform its residents about what the rules are according to Metro Vancouver's plan. But whereas the UEL does have a bylaw and it's outdated, to the best of my knowledge, there is no bylaw governing watering in university neighborhoods. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. It's something where I think it's just been expected that people are informed of what Metro Vancouver's rules are. But the rules actually come from municipalities, from the local government. So I wanted to bring that to your attention in the event, in preparation for this coming summer, that you may want to address the university or yourselves on the issue of the creation of a rule or a bylaw that is a local rule for watering. Running down the Pacific Spirit Regional Park service yard replacement, there was quite a to-do, particularly in the endowment lands, because we've got two issues. I see David Evans here, our MLA. He's been working very, very hard on behalf of all the communities to see whether the service yard could remain in its existing location, which is the public works yard of the endowment lands. The Metro Vancouver has never held tenure there. They've had their trailers there for about 20, 25 years, and they need to replace the trailers. They've approached the province to ask whether they could leave the trailers there. The answer was, you've never had tenure, you're not going to have tenure, and you need to be able to leave at short notice. So this is an issue between the province and our broader community and users of the park. The alternative to keeping the service yard there is to take a part of the park and to remove forest in order to accommodate a service yard. So I just want to express thanks. David's here now. That has gone nowhere so far. Not sure, not optimistic that it will go anywhere, but he's worked very hard on our behalf. The other piece of the puzzle was, in the event that the service yard has to go into the park, I can't say where it is, where is it going to go? And Metro Vancouver had shortlisted 3 sites. And their report is now out. And it came out since, it's on the link here, but they have now, to my great relief, there were 2 sites that were very objectionable to some people, and they have been removed from the shortlist. There was a 3rd one that was also objectionable. It's still on, but they have added some additional possible sites. So we're partway to a good solution, I think. The Rugby Centre liquor license has been issued. That doesn't get issued by Metro Vancouver. Metro's role is to engage with the communities and conduct a public hearing if that's desired. That was done for this rugby pavilion because there was a worry that there might be noise emanating from events for which it will be rented, and that noise would carry across the fields, particularly in Hampton Place. The UNA chose not to comment. The RCMP had no objection from their perspective, the Liquor License Control Board in Victoria has issued this license. So there is now a license and liquor can be served there until something like 1 a.m. for private functions that can take place on the patio that is outdoor and south facing. So I just want to bring that to your attention, that liquor license has been issued. And then on the transportation, public transit, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. TransLink has encouraged all of us to look at their accountability center. This is one of the few areas that voted yes in the referendum. There's still a lot of bad vibes about TransLink. They're working hard to turn around public perception. So as we have a strong interest in this area in the public transit, have a look at their accountability center and provide them with any feedback. And this is directed especially to folks in CNCP at UBC. You'll have probably some good comments on how they can improve it, and they will really appreciate it. So I wanted to draw that one to your attention. And I think that's pretty much it. And to Dan's attention, perhaps the support for community cleanup initiatives. If there's any desire in this university community for community cleanup initiatives and sort of free disposal of waste at Metro Vancouver, that's available. And I went out to look to see if it could be done for here and not just municipalities, because they originally made it available to municipalities. And yes, it's available here too. That's it. Unless there are questions.
Members, go ahead.
I have one question regarding the broad-based upgrade.
Yeah.
So right now it goes to adults.
This has been a consultation on the phase 1 piece, which is yes to our views.
Is there any chance for UBC?
I think we have to ask a different question right now. The chance is yes in our lifetime, hopefully. The really, really big question, and here I turn to our MLA again, but is to really put pressure and make this an election issue that we get funding for the Broadway subway going as far as our units. We need commitments from the province that they're going to step right up and do two things. One is to fund their share and in the most generous way that they can. And secondly, that they're going to enable a new source of regional revenue because it cannot go on, the regional share cannot go on property tax. So that's the big question, and until that is solved, we're not even getting as far as that is. So again, I would encourage everybody to place pressure on both parties at this stage. That's a good question. Thank you.
Members, anything more? Okay.
Thanks very much.
Good to see you again. Next up, Jan, it's your report. It covers the Society Act, the operating budget, and the fire service briefing. Is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Members, any questions for Jan?
See what they're doing.
Report is next.
You see the system, the system. Yeah.
I have a question regarding to compliance with the new BC Society Act. So it will discuss later, right, for this issue.
That's correct, it's on the agenda.
There's one big
So then we
now.
can discuss it.
Until they get the system. Yeah, it's to replace the mechanical.
All right.
Federal mechanical.
Let's look at C1, which is our list of priorities. We made a couple of changes in the month of January to finance. Members, we still comfortable with our priorities? I think that is a yes. So let's go to the next one. Did I go too quickly? All right. Next item is C2, UNA bylaw compliance. And there is a motion within C2, and normally I just read it out. So it's that the Board of Directors supports the recommendation of staff to reconvene a public session on February 28th and to prepare, to release final draft of bylaws. And the goal is to have a special general meeting to be held on Thursday, April the 6th.
May I bring your attention to the attachments? So by the end of the consultation period, which was February the 9th, we had received 4 comments from residents, but over the weekend, we received another 3. And I've given, they don't appear online in the budget package, but you do have them in your board packages. And they're under C2 attachment 1 post February 9, 2017.
All right. I can depart from practice and suggest that we do not propose this motion.
Do we still have some discussion for this, right?
More deep, yes, yeah. So the reason being is that, as indicated in the attachments, we have received many comments. And so there is an opportunity and an obligation on our part to engage residents in additional discussion, and discussions that are not limited by dates, deadlines, such as April. So I'm suggesting that we start a process of dialogue with residents, in particular with the residents that have raised concerns, and that the proposed deadline of a decision at the special general meeting in April be postponed to the annual general meeting in September. The idea is that we would be too rushed to meet the April deadline. And once you get into summer, then it's not a good time to have general meetings. We have a target of September, the September AGM. So the changes to the society were not intended to be substantial. They were intended to be. However, the conversations that we're hearing from residents have covered a wider range than we had contemplated in our task that we set ourselves. And so we need more time to address and respond to those concerns. So my suggestion is that we aim for the September annual general meeting for bylaw approval.
I just want to thank you, Richard, for that. I agree. And I want to remind members also that this artificial deadline of April, whatever it was, the end of April, is artificial because our bylaws already comply with what is it now called? I don't know which Societies Act. So we're okay that way. It's just, it would be nice to have a new set of bylaws, yes, but there's been a lot of discussion, as you saw from the comments from people, And it's gone a lot deeper than the housekeeping notes that we thought we were doing. So I think it's a good idea. And of course, we save money by having a special general meeting.
If I could just comment on your comment that our bylaws are compliant with the new act. We have heard, UNA has heard that they're not. So there is a difference of opinion, right? So that would be the type of conversation that we need to have so that there's clarity over what the expectations are. Yeah.
I kind of disagree with the suggestion. One is I really need to say that I was shocked when I see this comment. Why there's so many errors when we have meetings, we don't find out a lot of errors here. And I think for the special general meeting, we can postpone to not in April, maybe in June, something like that, because this is the first time that the resident can have some say for these bylaws, UNA bylaws. I think it's a good opportunity to have this conversation with the resident before the general meeting and the general meeting.
Oh, there will be conversations, absolutely. Right. But the proposal is that the bylaws themselves will be submitted to the membership for a vote in September. Between now and then, and before school ends and summer holidays start, there will be community conversations to go over the concerns that have been raised. And just remember the starting point for the bylaw review was to make the bylaws compliant, subject to a difference of opinion, and to not make substantive changes. Right? However, the comments that have been received, they are described as substantive. So there's been a shift in the expectation.
If we need to postpone to 2 months, I think there is enough time to have further discussion. We will meet with the resident to make these comments. We have done a lot of why we propose. Right now is still February, so 4 months is enough to make further decision for this before the annual general meeting.
Well, the sentiment is that we will be meeting in any event in September. We have a wide range of concerns. Right? We can take our time and give them the full attention that they need, and we do not have to rush into, say, a special general meeting in May.
We take council 6 months to make this discussion. And why we have our lawyer, right? So why did our lawyer get involved in this bylaw change?
Well, the lawyer acting for the UNA is Borrens and Company. Right? And I think this project started, I think it was August, no, yeah, it was August of last year, so they've been involved. And the sequence has included a number of UNA residents, all of whom had extensive experience with the UNA. There was, correct me if I'm wrong, Laura, but there were a couple of meetings in the fall, and this came to us again, I think in
December.
December.
Timelines, if you look at C2, page 24, you'll see the timeline.
Yeah, okay. Right. So we have not been wasting our time. We have used resources that are knowledgeable to the UNA operation. But remember, the focus was on the bylaws and their compliance to the Societies Act. What we have received recently and in the attachment to this agenda item are a number of concerns or proposals related to the bylaws that are significant and go beyond what is absolutely necessary to comply with the BC Society Act. So we need to discuss those. And since they came up in the discussion period, which I think was the end of January, right, corresponding to new information, so we haven't been wasting our time up until this point. So, question, then Laura, and then
I just have a couple of questions for actually both of you, and that is, I hear there's a desire for the board to better understand the concerns that residents have expressed through the consultation process, and I think that's valuable, and that's our obligation as board members to better understand what's driving those concerns and make sure we are responding accordingly, so we need time to do that. But I also am hearing from Ing that there's a desire to get this done because we started this process and we want to finish it. I'm just wondering what's driving the need to conclude it by April or May or June? Is it simply timing to get it done, or is there an advantage that you're seeing that I'm not understanding to push it forward other than allowing a more thoughtful engagement process?
Yeah, I think this special general meeting will be the first, right? Special general meeting for the UNA. It's a democracy for the residents to have some more say on this bylaw, UNA bylaw, because I think the first UNA bylaw was not consulted with the residents.
But by delaying it to September, that would still happen. You're just allowing more time for consultation, I think, is what's being proposed, right?
yeah, but just for clarification, the special general meeting is the occasion where members vote. They say, I like it or I don't like it. Right? It's not a discussion because we need to have the discussion before we get to the stage. And it could be that we need more than one discussion before we get to the stage where we have a set of bylaws that are ready to be voted on. So just for clarification, the special general meeting is not a debate. Okay, the debate and the engagement occurs before. Kathleen?
I was just gonna say that whether it's May or September, I have no problem with progress. But I would prefer that it not take place in June, just because I think that the conversation that we're having around concerns that were brought forward are really relevant to students. And I think that, as I'd like to remind the UNA, approximately 20%, according to our statistics of the UNA, are students, and I would like them to be involved in this conversation.
I just want to make sure we as a board fully understand those concerns that are addressed now. And so I feel like as a board, we all agree that we have an obligation to consult our community in a thoughtful and meaningful way. We want to have enough time to do that. We're still getting a special general meeting. We might coincide that with it might fall into the annual general meeting, so we don't have to have two different occasions. By delaying it to September, we're enabling more time to meaningfully engage with the community. If we do it in June, then we're potentially precluding a significant portion of the population and limiting our time to consult. It's getting late.
Right. And then part of the response to tonight's discussion, subject to your agreement, would be that staff would develop a communication plan and set opportunities for residents and members to be consulted and engaged.
More clear timeline on what we need to do. We need like 6 months.
So Rose, a question, then Laura.
Go ahead. So, regarding to this discussion with Lee's concern, I have one concern, I don't know yet, but there is some bylaws probably related to our election. The election will be held in September, right? So, if anything we consider is not appropriate for the current bylaws, we need to change. But the yearly election will be done by September, and then it won't apply for new bylaws. Then probably some kind of either conflicts or not really satisfied with some person, like about time. And can I see the second one? I just want to know who's our lawyer. So what's the position of this lawyer? I've heard many times, but I've never seen this person.
Well, he presented to us at a board meeting, so perhaps you missed that.
Perhaps you were away, Rose. He presented to the board in December.
That's consultation.
It was in November. The lawyers made a presentation to the board in November.
So we don't have a lawyer. They would hire him or this company.
I provided the name, the Foreign and Company. It's the name of the lawyer.
Orientation. Yeah, okay, that's the other lawyer.
I think there's something that needs to be clarified here. So the UNA has another lawyer, a different lawyer. Mark
Hosting. We don't always use the same lawyers for the same things. So the UNA doesn't have a staff lawyer. And so depending on what the concern is or what needs to be addressed, we will seek legal advice from the appropriate firm to deal with that specific issue. We used to have
I think there was
a quasi-staff lawyer function too.
Yeah. And then Mark
Hallstein was Jim's associate, and so Mark Hallstein became involved in things that Jim did. But our quasi-staff lawyer at that point was Jim Hill.
Because I feel embarrassed to see that all these errors.
But Amy, I don't think you should assume that they're errors. Some of these are technical, some of these are stylistic, and some of these are out of the scope of the original project. So I don't think you should take on face value that they are errors. They are opinions of one resident who's made his opinions known to us, but they are not necessarily errors.
I just mentioned that in the in-camera session following this meeting, you will receive a written memo from Foreigns and Company to address some of these. And go ahead and remind me to respond to Rex.
Okay, I'm just wondering, does that then, is that going to then tell us about the fact that we're not compliant? Because I thought that Foreign's, that's what their job was, to make sure that the new bylaws were compliant.
Right. But I believe you said that our current bylaws are compliant with the new Eastern Societies Act.
No, it was a revised one.
Oh.
Yeah, and I
Then
thought those were,
misunderstood.
I thought those were already put in, like it was just a small revision. Okay.
There are transition, but we had to transition from the old act to the new act. And so we have done that piece.
Okay, that's maybe what I'm getting confused about.
But the full draft bylaws have not been voted upon. They need to be voted on by the membership. And only then can they be submitted to the registrar of societies. And they become the official bylaws of the union.
But the transition, I have to address the question to Jack. The transition part was what we had to do to be compliant.
It really is a declaration that we will become compliant with the new bylaws.
Okay.
But they have not yet been adopted by the membership.
And does that have to be done by November 2018?
The transition has already occurred. The new bylaws officially are supposed to be done by November 2018. The entire transition period is over at the end.
Right. That's quite a bit of time.
So, Rose, if I may just answer to your concern about the election. So we had an election and we had a post-election report. There was no suggestion that the election was flawed in any way. So what you're reading in those notes, I suggest is simply somebody's opinion. Okay? It does not mean that the election process, even if it continued unchanged in September, would be flawed or inappropriate in any way. So, what we do feel that we want, if we did nothing, the 2017 election would be just fine.
Maybe one last question, because related to budget. We didn't change these bylaws, which means we need at least $10,000 for mailing all the package to the residents. According to previous bylaws, they didn't change into the election, so they will add more budget on that. If you think about this,
There is a cost to mailing, and our bylaws currently are somewhat vague about do you have to mail or can you do something electronically. We did an electronic mailing this year. We were not challenged by any members. And I think you're safe to consider an electronic mailing next year as well. Really? Challenged in the court.
Oh. Not challenged us, because there was definitely some complaints.
Yes, but a complaint needs to go the full distance with a court challenge.
So,
Sorry
go ahead, Cal.
to belabor this conversation, but I wonder if it would be helpful to hear what the implications are legally of delaying for budget, any potential budget impacts of delaying, to get some clarity on that before decision is made. And if we postpone that decision.
The verbal advice so far from Lawrence and Company is that there is no problem in delaying this, but we can put that question to them.
We have had that conversation.
Yeah, we've had the conversation. It's not in writing. So, members, how do you feel about, I don't know if you need a motion, but the idea would be to request staff to develop a communication and plan, an action plan to engage residents and respond to concerns. Is that, we need an actual motion and,
I would suggest you have an actual motion.
okay. Well, if anybody can remember what I said, good luck.
Well, there would be two parts to the motion. One of them is to delay the special general meeting. You don't need to put a date on it today. Pending the request of staff to develop the communications and engagement plan.
Everybody happy with that motion? I'll propose it. Oh, perfect.
We don't
Okay.
require a second.
Oh, we don't.
Okay. Everybody comfortable? Everybody just double checking? You okay?
Yes.
Okay, super. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks, members. And I'm just checking the time. Okay, next item is the letter to the province. Okay. So, discussion last month, sending a letter to the province. Have, as part of the board action plan, the desire to send a letter to the province to clarify the nature of the taxes, raw taxes that we pay. This was discussed when we passed the fire tax motion in September. We still wish to do this. Okay. And if we do, is there an opportunity to combine such a letter with additional paragraphs that reflects some of the concerns that we heard at the January board? Over to you. First up is Karen.
I revisited the October 11th, 2016 meeting minutes. We had at the September board meeting around fire service tax, and I think it's clearly evident that there's two particular motions, or two particular statements attached to the motion that are relevant for this conversation, and that's number 12 and 13. So the UNA does not support the province's decision to establish a separate government tax for protection services. So we're committed to managing this issue to protect the community interests, and that the UNA will continue to seek clarification from the province on how the general road tax is allocated. So I think if we send a letter articulating those two facts, those two sentiments, it's following up on the previous conversation that the board had. We have an obligation to do that, and we should absolutely do that, and focus the letter on those two things.
The 12 and 13.
Yeah.
Okay. Thoughts, members? Members, your thoughts? Flora.
I think it's really important that we reiterate to the province that we disagree with this, that we are opposed to this fire protection charge. So that's number 12. As number 13, I doubt we're going to get much information because it's just money that goes into one big pool and they don't know where it goes. But I mean, yes, we can ask that question. But I think more important is to reiterate that we're opposed to it.
I think we have a draft election from taxation working group. That's so clarifying for what we are going to do.
Except I don't believe it addresses number 13.
Process-wise, I'm wondering if we could ask staff to draft a letter and then circulate it to the board.
correspondence and then we can use the information from the previous letter as well to make sure these two things are.
Yes, I would like to use this as a basis, the one that was proposed by the working group. Just add on the
I really don't have to review that, so I'll have my comments on that or review the letter.
I think time is urgent because it already been delayed 1 month. So if we go back to write and have discussion, how long you want we send the letter to the client? We could have done
We could have a timeline, but also at the January meeting, we were not informed as to what the timeline or deadlines were. So since you raised the issue now, what in your view are the deadlines related to this letter? When does electioneering start? Well, yes.
I think electioneering has started, and that's another, I didn't say that before, but that's another reason why it's important to send this letter, to show to everyone that's involved in the election that we are opposed to what the provincial government did to us. And I think that's very important. We want to make this an election issue. Yes, I do. Okay, I should, okay.
Yeah, do we,
Yes.
has the board talked about that?
Well, there was discussion about that.
Well,
I think that was in the January meeting, and there was discussion about that in our briefing.
but it's interesting because you see,
We also put on the agenda.
in Bill's presentation, which is very informative, I recall 2 comments. One is that the provincial government is going to change its mind if we vote to the province and asked about the use of the poll tax, we probably wouldn't get a very clear answer. And I recall the sentiment being expressed that it may not have any effect whatsoever. It depends really if there is an appetite on behalf of the people running for elected office to actually make this into an election issue. Because I'm not sure we've heard directly from any such person. Yeah. Anyway, Rose.
Go ahead. Okay, so to say a few words. And actually, I invited our MLA coming for today's session because actually during some kind of events I talked to him about this issue, and I think I don't. Sorry, it's not related to your election or something. It's because he's our MLA. He's representing us. So that's why I had a concern for so long, and then I had a chance to talk to him, and then he made his effort to come back from Victoria this afternoon to come to our meeting to listen to our discussion. And I'm not sure that would you like to say a few words about this?
Procedure? No.
No?
No, this is a board meeting.
Okay.
And only people who speak
Okay.
are those at the table and staff.
Okay. Sure. But,
Yeah. Normally, we would love to hear our MLA speak. Okay. Carol.
Can I propose a motion and then we can discuss it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to propose that we send a letter by the end of the week. We'll ask staff to draft it.
Board will review it. It will re-articulate points 12 and 13 in the October 16th minutes.
Okay. So the end of the week, give me a date. Is that okay? Okay. All right, and can I make a suggestion? I don't want to cause problems. How about if we say by the end of the week, we will all have a draft? Yeah. So maybe we mail it on Monday or something like that, but I mean, in fairness to staff, to just give them 2 days to draft it. And mail it, get it in the mail, and for us to approve it.
I would like to further add a motion that it be based on, you'll see it, and like, the letter that was presented to us. The proposed letter.
Can we just have, I just a suggestion. Can we just have staff draft it and then all of us can provide, like if you feel like it's not reflecting your concerns, then you can provide.
I share some concern there because, in all honesty, received the letter last week. I'll be honest, last month, I haven't looked at it, to be honest with you. So I mean, I'm not that familiar with it.
After 1 month, because you're keeping news
No, I
one
don't.
letter.
Because in all honesty, well, I would say, no. Okay.
Could I just ask Laura, what point specifically in the letter do you think are not captured in points 12 and 13?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen the letter, so I think Carol's suggestion, I don't have that.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we have a motion. Okay, for staff to draft a letter by the end of this week for board member approval.
Next Monday.
Okay, how's that? Covering items 12, 13. Right, motion and somebody to second it.
Okay.
Okay. Do we need to vote? I guess we do. All in favour? All right, super. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we said goodbye to Rick. Okay, look, how we're doing, I'm just going to get up and have a stretch, I'm not being rude. And the next item is D1. And this is quite an extensive read. So I won't be asking any skill testing questions. So Jan, sorry, Laura.
Can I just make a suggestion? Just in view of the residents that are here from East Mall, could we revise the agenda to put East Mall parking first?
Okay. Members, I see nods. Good idea. Okay. So, who wishes to lead East Mall? Can I look at you? All right, so Carol will lead this discussion.
Well, I just want to acknowledge and thank the residents for expressing administration concerns. I might, Jan, you might need to help here with some clarification, but I understood that East Mall was actually that UBC parking has the ability to enforce that portion of East Mall if the signs were changed.
And if UBC had peace officers, Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure won't approve anyone who is not a peace officer doing enforcement. So that was a big piece.
But isn't that section of road jurisdiction under UBC?
It is.
Okay, so then why does the RCMP care? Because UBC has a ton of
The RCMP
MOT, because it's not, so it's a Why is multi relevant here?
Yeah, very good question.
Because, so what I'm suggesting is that if we can go back and have conversations with UBC parking, because what I would like to see and suggest is that if UBC parking does indeed have authority over that section of road, that we convert that back to UBC parking to enforce, but keep the permitting regulations the exact same as however the UNA and the community wants it to be. So nothing will change on the face other than invigilation.
Now, can UBC, UBC's typical parking rules is 3 tickets. Would we use the 3 tickets? Because every other piece of Hawthorne Place and Westbrook is under motif regulations, there's no child can't.
I think those are great questions, and we go back to UBC to understand what they can do, and then come back to the board with a report on suggestions for approval. That's what I suggest.
My mouth is full.
Thank you. One thing that didn't actually come out in your presentation, and I just wanted to clarify here too, is the way the parking works. It's up until 6 p.m. it's for residents only, and then after 6 p.m. it's free. And there's parking meters across the street which people could park in, but guess where they park? They park on our side. And okay, I live on East Mall. I have an 86-year-old mother who often cannot find any place to park in front of our house, has to park maybe blocks away. Actually, I tell her to park in at the innovations because they don't check after 5 there. But I'm not supposed to tell anyone that. That's unofficial. I guess what I'm wondering is, further to that, could we change at least along East Mall that it's any residents only?
Absolutely, it's a UNA. Which one's UNA permitting?
Yeah, and we've done that on the west side of Hawthorne Place, where it's strictly for the UNA residents who have a depot or a visitor parking pass. Now, you should know that there have been complaints from some of the stratas in that, on the west side of Hawthorne Place, that they don't like the idea that it's always 24 hours a day, UNA residents only. Because it means that they have to buy a visitor's parking pass.
So they can park there at night, okay, without, right, okay. Well.
But that would be a consultation with residents in the neighborhood to determine if there is agreement to changing it to 24 hours.
Well, what I heard from one of the residents tonight was that she's perfectly happy to pay the parking costs, but she just wants to get the service.
So
you guys remember
perhaps just in the interest of time, and to move the conversation along, I wonder if we could agree to have staff have some conversations with parking, come back at another board meeting when the information is ready to make some proposals on how we can have better vigilation along that section of East Mall. And then to address Laura's comment is explore opportunities if there is a desire to change the permitting hours to a consultation.
Everybody happy? No. I said, and so bringing that forward, let's now go to D1, which is a provincial elections, and I believe the concern here relates to a possible plethora of vote from these.
That's pretty much it.
Okay. And in brief, is it manageable?
Well, I think it is manageable, but the board will adopt some clear policy on what they'll permit or not permit. And then we can make those policies known to the candidates. But in the past, it's been very confusing for candidates where they can put things, where they can't put things. You'll see that in the documents that I've sent you, that I attached, you have the guide to initiative communications from the provincial election. It talks about signage. The City of Vancouver has a signage policy around election signs, and UBC has a policy around signs on UBC campus grounds. Of course, though that UBC policy doesn't apply to UNA. The UNA has a policy on UNA elections, and if you look at page 53, it says in the private realm, candidates will make arrangements themselves with owners or landlords, so that's a private property. In public realm, that would be the parks, the boulevards, the sidewalks. All we say is that the UNA reserves the right to remove any campaign signs that may obstruct traffic, hinder pedestrian visibility, or create a hazard. And that's because the board was challenged by a candidate several years ago who said the public realm at UBC is really a private realm because UBC is a private institution and owns all its own land. So the board at that point decided it wasn't going to, it was going to make something more vague. But it only means we can take down the sign if it obstructs traffic. So you could put, a candidate could put signs all over Smith Park or all over Iona Green, because those are UNA parks.
Are you proposing to come up with guidelines?
If that's what the board wishes.
Right. What do you think?
It would be a policy, not a guideline.
It'd be quite interesting to understand the experiences we've had in the last couple of elections. So, has it been a problem?
No, not really.
So this is one that doesn't, you didn't do anything, you probably expect to see similar impact this upcoming election.
We have a candidate who lives in Neighbourhoods.
So perhaps, change.
Who knows?
I think it's reasonable for the board to have to do a travel policy. Managing both sides of education hasn't been a problem today, but I'm just asking the question on the side of potential agency.
Is it even be like not just specific to the provincial elections, but anyone else?
That would be total sense to sign that policy. On the road signage policy.
Okay, so is the motion that staff develops an election signage policy?
No, signage, just signage.
Or just, oh, not election, okay, signage policy. Comfortable with that? Just proposing that, thank you, Michael. Okay, all in favour?
Oh, do we want
All in favor?
All in favour? All in favour, Laura coming back. Okay, we have a motion concerning signs, and the motion is that staff develop signage policy. That is proposed by Michael.
Oh, yes, Stratus has it, signage.
So this point, we'll have another vote since you're back. All in favour? Okay. Good thing you voted.
Wouldn't have passed otherwise.
Okay. Okay, we're on to DD2. Board procedures. So 10 years to clarify any misunderstandings that might have occurred last month. And basically, there are two motions. One is that intended motions must be disclosed in advance to members in the monthly agenda package. There are exceptions to these, 1, 2, 3. And there is a second motion that starts a process to develop board procedures as recommended in the 2014 lecture.
I would like to move motion 2, but I think motion 1 should, after motion 2, procedure development, then we have more detail. Motion 2, we have details.
Right, so you're proposing motion 2, so thank you, Dean. So we have a motion on the table. Members, how do you feel about that? Very straightforward? Okay. Nice and clean? Okay, well, let's have a vote. All in favour of motion 2? Okay. And is everybody comfortable that motion 2, in essence, covers off motion 1? Okay.
When we pass all these motions, we have some timeline for things to do, because I think it's very important to move to the procedures.
We could say that the subject matter of motion number 1 could be a priority. And if members feel that there are other steps in the board process that are important, simply inform Jan of your thoughts. Okay. Well, I think we could probably do create material around the subject matter of motion 1 in 45, 60 days, 30 days.
Well, if we're going to tackle procedures bylaw, procedures bylaws are in place in most municipalities. Robert's Rules of Orders is a procedures bylaw. It's very complicated. And so if we can develop one that is specific to the board's needs, motion will be part of it, table resolutions. Why not just do it all at the same time? I also would recommend that we hire someone to do it. Someone who, maybe Fletcher, is someone who might do it, or our lawyers could do it. It's technical work, and it requires some legal expertise.
Okay.
And it would also require someone to do a good deal of research to make sure that we're not coming up with something that isn't the norm with societies or within municipalities. So I think if the board agreed to hiring a consultant to do it, we probably could get it done in 60 days.
I have a question for Jen. So this after 15 years after UNA was established, for the board, we have no formal procedure.
We have some that are part of the bylaws. So for instance, the quorum is established by the directors at a meeting. If there is a tie vote, there is a bylaw that allows the chair to break that tie. There are, if the chair isn't at the meeting within 30 minutes, then the directors can appoint another chair. So there are some already procedures, but it's not comprehensive at all.
Okay, not have a sitting procedure, very formal.
It doesn't necessarily have to be formal, but it gives guidance to the directors. One thing that is always confusing, I believe, at a board meeting is what does an abstention mean? So board members abstain for all kinds of reasons. In a municipality, if a board member abstains, if a city council abstains, that's a no vote. It's counted as a no vote.
So I think the board needs to, the directors need to understand and agree upon what does abstaining mean. And how we do, you abstain all the time. Of course, but I don't think that you ask each of, if you poll each of you right now to say, to ask, what is your understanding of abstaining? I think there would be many different answers.
So are we done with D2? Oh, Michael.
Sorry, no. In isolation, I fully respect the need and support the need for process procedures, that we're all clear and understanding. I would not want that to take away from some of the priority activities that we talked about, which is really the bylaw act. And I want to make sure that we give enough time for staff to help these proposals without taking away time to address our priorities.
I'm sorry, I don't know. Do we not just already follow the rules and Robert's rules about abstentions? And if not, would we be open to just adopting whatever the rules are already?
We tried adopting Robert's rules before, yeah, it's very complicated. And no one was well enough versed to keep bogged down in meeting signatures. The municipalities have their procedures bylaw, and they're much simpler than Robert's rules. EAMS uses Robert's rules.
Our chair knows that, Milan can just tell them on us our trust.
Staff is requested to develop procedures and is cognizant of the concern that it's not divert us from other priorities.
The staff investigate hiring a consultant.
Absolutely. Need to get things done. Okay, so 1857, so in, over to you, isn't it? Financials. We've got that.
Will I have a book if you want? Everything on the right side, we have surplus. Is that right? Yes. Yes. I think so. Who are you?
The balance does not have a bracket around it, so that's good.
Mr. Chair and Madam Treasurer, Serena has prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation for you to show you the changes that were recommended at the Finance and Audit Standing Committee.
That's E2, right?
That's E2.
Great.
Okay, so we had the public consultation in January. From January 12th, and we extended the deadline to February 5th to allow for some additional comments from residents. We had quite a few comments come in, 48 emails in total, and there were a variety of issues that were addressed. Most notable was around the parking rate increase. So we propose to increase the parking from $80 per year to $160 per year. This was intended to help cover the costs of parking enforcement. There's also a proposal to charge for parking in Hampton Place for currently residents not to pay for on-street parking. And this would help to make things more equitable between the neighborhoods.
So all of the condos in UNA do have access to off-street parking. The on-street parking can be purchased in addition to the underground parking that are available in each building. So, and it's usually much more expensive to park off-street. Usually in the realm of $80 to $100 per month. So it's much more favorable for residents to pay for the option. And then this ends up negatively affecting visitors' ability to park on the street if residents are using the on-street parking as opposed to the parking available in the buildings. So the other intention of this parking rate increase was to help make visitor parking more accessible. We discussed this in great detail in Finance and on the Standing Committee meeting last week, and agreed that there would be a reduction in the rate that was proposed to $120 per year as opposed to $160 per year. That is the first vehicle as well as the visitor's pass. And then it would go up from there, $240 for 2 vehicles, $360 for 3 or more. It's a $40 decrease annually. The board has also discussed, or the committee rather, discussed developing a long-term parking strategy, and that would allow us to anticipate increases in parking in the future, residents the ability to understand those parking increases that may come into effect. It also helps the staff to plan for the future for parking enforcement within the neighborhoods. So there's been a few other changes to the budget since the last draft that I gave you last month. So with this decrease in the parking rates, we're anticipating less revenue, of course. That was by about $10,000. After we saw the results of the winter program registration, we increased our programming revenue for next year. There's also an increase in the related expenses to that as well. And there has been some increase in community center operating expenses, and this is just allowing for repairs that may come up next year for families. And public library fees, there is another attachment in your package there. The library fees have been higher than expected users, so they're going to go up, which I don't do that. The rates for users stay the same, it's just that there's a higher volume. Decrease in insurance premiums. This is because UBC is going to cover our insurance for the 2 community centers, as well as the liability insurance. So that's about $50,000 in savings for us. We renegotiated our IT contract as well, saving about $8,000 next year. Good. And we are also cutting back on irrigation costs. That should hopefully save around $50,000 next year. And the result of all these changes means there's just going to be a decrease in the recovery of the GST, and then an increase in the contingency. So the total change is $29,000. We'll be able to decrease with dropping the rate stabilization reserve. So the total rate stabilization for all will be $688,000 this year. We have motions to approve the budget. Is there any other questions?
I just want to say one thing that you were saying, that I read it somewhere, actually, I'm not quite sure, I know it wasn't in your presentation, but saying that all Strata have access to off-street parking. The one thing that not all Strata have are visitor parking spots, off-street or otherwise.
Right.
So I think that needs to be taken into account when we're thinking about how much our visitor parking costs are going to cost.
Right. Do you have suggestions for the 120?
Let's see, it was 80, was it 84? No, it was more.
It was 80.
But there was a parking tax.
Yes. Well, we have to charge the parking tax as provincial law,
Yeah.
and that's 21%, it's huge. You don't pay provincial parking tax on parking that's associated with your domicile.
Right.
But if it's not associated with your domicile, then you pay the provincial parking tax.
So does that mean that Stratas pay tax on their visitor spots?
Your visitor spots, they own their visitor spots, they're not on the street.
Do I have a proposal? Let's see, so the proposal is that the
$120 for visitor parking passes and and your residence depot, as opposed to the $160 that we had proposed in January.
And it's going up from 80.
And it's going up from 80, so it's going up by 50% rather than 100%.
Before when we approved parking pass increases, it was actually a separate motion at the board. So I guess I'm wondering whether if we approve the budget as a whole, but then we actually need to do a separate motion of the parking pass. That's what we've done in the past.
Yes, that is what we've done in the past, but it doesn't need to be done that way. If it's part of the budget deliberations, it can all go in one motion.
Is there any legal issues there? If we approve this budget, then immediately we increase the parking fees for the residents?
They would be increased on the 1st of April when the fiscal year starts. We always increase the parking fees at the same time as the new fiscal year starts. April.
What has the average parking fee increased every year?
$20 a year.
What's the percentage?
It changes every time. So in $20, an increase of $20 on $80 would be 25%.
So we're going from 25 to 50, 25% increase in the time of fiscal straight now.
So there was also in the West End, they just.
Yeah,
You saw that?
yeah.
Yeah, so $360 a year from 80.
Just to correct that, it would have been, the last year's impact, it's 80 now, it would have been 60 last year, so it would have been 33% increase last year, so it's like 33 this year.
Yeah. That might be that.
I think it's reasonable in light of the other actions that we're proposing to take around parking and addressing parking rates across the entire building.
The question is, will it come in before those other actions happen?
I still think it's budget process issues like that. What was the 30%
Should also take into account that we increased the enforcement from 40 hours a week to 56 hours a week at the request of residents, particularly those in Hoffman Place, who are the most troubled by other people parking in Hoffman Place. And the cost of the commissionaires has increased, their general hourly cost has increased.
Actually, that was in 2015, November 2015, was when we increased the cost to cover was supposed to be covering that increased cost of refrigeration. So now are we increasing it again then? Because it increased to 56 hours in November 2015.
It's not to increase again, but it's to cover, it's over $100,000 to manage parking. And we certainly don't bring in $100,000 in revenues. But it is in an effort to recoup some of the cost.
Okay, so it's not a revenue generating thing?
No.
Okay. I've heard it put other ways. it's good to be clear about that. So actually, the increase in parking revenue is to do with covering the cost of invigilation.
Exactly. Subsidized.
Subsidizing the cost of invigilation.
And to make parking more equitable, we know that every time we've increased the rates, the number of recurring permit purchases have decreased. So when it was for free, everybody took a parking because it was for free. The following year, for 10 months, we charged $40. The following year, for 12 months, so to line up with the fiscal year starting with one, it was 12 months, it went up to $60, which was no increase, it just added 2 months to the cost. Then last year, it was $80. So this year, we proposed doubling the fee. And as Serena mentioned, we had 48 responses, most of them from Hawthorne Place, from residents who were not happy with the big jump. So at the Finance and Audit Standing Committee, the directors worked on the number, and that was to reduce it from 100% increase to a 50%.
David and Michael.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if we approve this budget, if it, as I discussed before, that for the Q&A bylaws, if they didn't change, if there are any cost for election, about $10,000, for example, if we discussed before for some more consultation, and right now we have none of the Human Resources Committee after October in September. So if anything related to human resources, will all this be considered during the
Yes, so we put in numbers for every line item, using our best knowledge of what might happen. It doesn't mean that things don't change, that the directors, the board doesn't make a decision during the course of the year that might change the budget. You either approve taking the money from contingency, or from a reserve, or from an internally restricted reserve, or we work within our budget and we can't do a change. So the budget isn't static, but if there are things that need to be addressed, staff will come back to the board and seek your approval to change them. And it can only be changed by the board.
specific for the human resources committee, if anything happens, just like when you hire some people or
We work within the budget that's been established. So Serena and I worked with all the managers, and we came up with the numbers that you've seen in the budget presentations for, if you're talking about salaries,
and
then we work within.
new positions, for example,
I'm sorry,
new positions for the.
there are no new positions that are forecast because of the budget constraints. If you recall, in the first budget that we brought to you in November, in December, we had a position for a communications person, and that was removed because of the budget constraints.
Thank you. I think for me, the substantive issue before us, of course, is the near $700,000 withdrawal from the legislative litigation reserve, and how we're concentrating on that part of the conversation may be warranted. I think, given the conversations we've had around the line of service levy and our stated desire to maintain services within that levy, the approach to withdraw as proposed is a reasonable step, but it is extremely important that the board, as you communicate the approved budget, as proposed, if we do approve it, that we say quite explicitly that We're aware that these are training funds that we utilizing and that a new budget plan needs to be put in place and that is a priority for us, and we have commissioned the joint task force to reconvene on that as a priority for the upcoming year, so that we're prepared for our next year.
Yeah, for the, yeah, I have same kind of concern with on the budget that the is full, and then we still have some questions. So can we still have a chance to like raise the question now because it's approved and don't say any word. So I just want to be sure.
The discussion about money is always relevant. But we need the budget approval. One, it's a commitment that the UNA has made to the university through the Neighbourhoods agreement, that we approve the operating budget 45 days before the start of the fiscal year. That would be tomorrow, it's 45 days. So there is some urgency, we can't put this off. But that doesn't mean that the board can't continue to discuss budget items. There are some things that we must pay. Commitments, we have contracts that we have. Staff contracts, contracts with service providers, UBC Programs Trust, who's a service provider, the Vancouver Public Library. We have commitments to those organizations, and so we can try to renegotiate with those organizations, but we do have signed contracts with them that we need to maintain.
Yeah, and I think there's still questions related to cultural recreation and issue. That part, because everybody not here, we all know that that part is more than half is separate. And I have a question about time for the meeting because I want to know exactly those positions what the duty we have actually do the defense work. Right? So I still have some questions, and also I'm not sure everyone else, but I like to have this strong feeling for that UNA office rental, and that's a huge number every year. And I'm not sure if we have chance either, decrease the rental fee.
It has been decreased this year, and it will be decreased for the next 5 years through the task force recommendations. So the rental for the office has been decreased by $10,000 a year for the next 5 years.
So, $10,000 per year
For the next 5 years.
So which means 5 years later you will be half.
5 years
Total is 100,000.
Yes.
So you mean like every year decrease 5?
Well, the UNA will save $50,000 over the first 5 years.
So then, so after 5 years, it's half.
No, it went from 106,000 per year to 96,000 per year. And that should be the same for every year.
For the next 5 years.
Sorry, I'm just confused about number.
Could be getting into a level of detail. So, in terms, you're being asked, or we're being asked, to approve the budget. Okay? And we're looking at the budget, the information presented to you as budget line items.
I just wanted, maybe perhaps for clarification, and confirmation that this board will continue to seek cost-saving opportunities wherever possible, revenue generation opportunities wherever possible, and reconvening, participating in a joint task force, which I think addresses all the concerns of the details that we're talking about.
going to feel uncomfortable. Otherwise, it's just always worried. Then the safety, not all I probably I shouldn't compare, but the safety had the fire protection. You approve, and then it's really hard to argue. So this is the same thing, I'm just worried. Right? People can prepare for that.
Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. Get back to business. These are your numbers, so we'll continue the conversation.
Just approve the motion. Can I have a vote?
There are three
motions. The first one that needs to be approved is the withdrawal from the rate stabilization. The member has the ability to change things Four motions. Four motions.
Yes.
The important ones are the first three ones. You recall that to withdraw from any of the reserves requires the approval of the two UBC appointed directors. And so if the two UBC appointed directors don't approve of the rate stabilization withdrawal, we'll have a problem with passing the operating budget. You agree? You call the motion, and call the motion. Call the question. All those in favor?
All those in favor? Okay, I presented Serena for the very kind work.
And now you have motion 2, 3, and 4 to do.
We can do it together. Motion 2, 3, 4.
They said, prefer if you did it one at a time, it makes it much more clear for the records. And who, can I go back to the motion 1, and who moved that? Amy.
You need to ask somebody to move motion 2.
Right now, motion 2, okay. Who moved the motion 2? Okay. All in favor? Let's go to motion 3. We are going to move the motion 3. Okay, thank you. All in favor?
I would just want to ask not to Carol to clarify that we still have a chance to further discussion.
Do you want to articulate that as another motion?
No, I think I'm not sure it's emotional, but I want to be sure.
Well, what you're approving tonight are the budgeted line items for revenues and expenses. And the budget item remains the same, right, throughout the year. But in the course of the year, the actual will change. All right?
So yes, you are budget.
Yeah, the budget number remains the same for the next 12 months. So that's what you're approving as a budget. And then as you've seen from other financial statements, the year to date is different from the budget.
I think what I'm hearing is that if there would be a higher level of comfort if there was, just as in motion 4, it's a directive to look at developing a strategy. Maybe you can contemplate a 5th motion, which is that the board will continue to explore revenue generating opportunities and cost saving strategies through participation in the unity financial platform. It's been articulated before in previous motions where we've asked to reconvene the joint task force, and this is just putting it on paper.
Everybody comfortable with that? So that's a friendly amendment to motion 3, which makes reference to the UNA UBC finance. Very clear, Jan, do you have?
No, I'm sorry, I'm lost now. I thought this was going to be a 5th motion.
Okay, let's make it a 5th motion so that we'll keep number 3 clean.
in favor?
May I ask who moved the third motion?
Kathy?
Kathleen? Thank you.
Let's go to motion 4.
That was that carried unanimously? Yes.
Motion 4.
Ready? Ready to move motion.
Okay. Any discussion? No. All in favor of motion 4? Motion 4.
I would actually like to discuss something.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that actually I feel like this, the multi-year off-street parking strategy, it needs to be done in conjunction with the UBC parking strategy. This needs to happen together with the UBC. I don't know how to add to that. I don't think that your on-street parking strategy this will maybe as an extra sentence, I don't know that. This will be done in conjunction, in consultation with UBC parking. It has to be done with UBC because the way they have their parking affects how we have our parking.
It doesn't affect Westbrook Place though, at all. It only affects Hobart Place. It affects no other neighborhood. And it only affects that one block from Thunderbird to Eagles on East Mall.
No, it affects other areas. It definitely affects other areas.
Could we not just make that a verbal request to start?
I would like to see the motion.
And where relevant, consult UBC parking.
Okay, so we have a friendly amendment. So Jan, do you have that friendly amendment?
I do. I've added to the end of it, what Carol has suggested, and where relevant, consult with UBC Parking Services.
Okay.
Thank you. So let's have a vote. All in favor of the motion, amended motion. Thank you. So let's have motion 5. On 5.
Yeah. The motion 5, which Carol proposed, is that the UNA Board of Directors reaffirm their commitment to work with the UBC UNA Financial Task Force to develop strategies to increase revenues and decrease expenses.
Okay, so let's move by Carol.
Sorry, just, we're using our 5-year financial model. 5-year.
The 5-year financial plan.
Let's move by Carol. Any discussion? All in favor, let's have a vote. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. You still have E3. E3, there's a motion that the board of directors supports the recommendation of the Finance and Audit Standing Committee and approve the transfer of the balance from GIC to the liquid fund account upon maturity. Who moved the motion? No, thank you. Any discussion? Let's have a vote. Thank you, Karen. You still have P4. P4 just for information, right? That's correct. Yes, just for information. You have questions for P4? No, thank you.
Oh, the only one, we discussed last time about the meeting, I think this is very important for residents to know what's happening on those, for example, this small Vancouver public library. Because as the residents, they all know it's totally free, because they don't know we pay so much money on it, right? And I talked to Jen before, I kind of had a survey with different libraries, and most of them, they went to the library and they got 3 cards. And actually, only probably 1 card is very often, and actually just use once or twice and then forget about it. But we pay those cards every year, right? So I think, I'm not sure how we do it, but we should have some kind of, public information session about certain items, including this for library, and we let people know that it is still we pay all the cards, and so if you don't use that much, so probably they can cut less 1/3 of the cards, probably you can pay less for that. I'm not sure what kind of meetings or maybe email or something, we can let them know, so we can save the, decrease. Decrease. Yeah, so
I'm not sure how we go about sending out an email to people to say, don't use this if you don't.
no, you cannot just say that, right? But you have to residents.
Perhaps you can put a story in the newspaper, just like a nice little family story. Did you know about the Vancouver Public Library and how we did?
One way, yeah.
Okay, we've got lots of hands up, so we're going anti-clockwise. Laura.
My suggestion is, if somewhere on the UNA website, does it say that you can give a free card?
Yes.
So I think a little blurb there would be appropriate.
Okay, Carol.
I was just going to say, I think one of the things that the UNA does a fairly good job of is communicating the services through our community conversations with the residents, so this could be.
I wonder if there's a possibility to go back to the Vancouver Public Library and the utilization stats.
We get those quarterly. And so we're told how many, we've not told who, but the numbers, and you'll see that on.
But I'm wondering about the
We tried to also negotiate a bulk rate. They were not very interesting. So on page 157, you can see the number, the stats of usage in every neighborhood categorized by adult and youth child.
Right, so I guess the question would be, not just the straight number, but how many people that have cars, how often they utilize, we plus that information, because if we have a handful of people that don't take advantage of it, but maybe possibly observations actually move.
We are charged when someone uses the card. So if you take out a card and never use it, then we're not charged. That's correct.
Okay.
So we're charged for cards that are used. Now, it may only be used once in a year, but if it's been used, then we get charged.
So then I see no need to have any additional communication.
You still have, because if one family, you come on the use one card, there are 2 kids that can use one card, so that still save a lot.
I'm sorry, but I would want to have my own card, because I can go at the same time as my wife.
The bottom line about this issue is to make sure that the users of these cards, they are still UNA residents.
So we covered it off in the previous motion, right? We're going to seek revenue generating opportunities for cost savings strategies. Okay.
Right, so let's discuss this later. I'm just looking at the clock. All right, and if I could just bring your attention to the For Information report. This is an example of a resident, a group of residents raising a concern, and the UNA, through Residents Assistance Team, has been able to respond to the concern. it does raise a unsightly concern, and that is garbage bins on the street. Which is unavoidable. All right, so may I have the motion to adjourn? Thank you.
Sure. Before you wrap up, I wasn't here in time to register as a delegation. I did want to very briefly say what few words. I promise I won't be a controversial or be at any agenda items. I'll keep it on for a minute. With your leave.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, just I've been MLA for 4 years and worked with a number of individually and as a group, and some of your predecessors as well. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank the whole community, our family, Lindsay, you and I love it here. And I think the staff does an amazing job. The board does a wonderful job. There's some difficult issues and some difficult constraints, and managed quite nicely. And I want to thank you for all of your work with my office, your cooperation. Mr. Tompkinson's excellent newspaper and the website and all the information. So it's been a pleasure. I hope to continue serving you for another 4 years, but the electors will see whether that happens. In any event, I just wanted to be on the record and in the minutes. Thank you for everything that you've done for the community. So thanks for that. I hear a lot of good things in my office and you continue to do extra work. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Now let's have a 2-minute stretch. Because we have
Wow, that's very fast. I didn't.